howdy, gents. It's me, Anthony, and we're here for this is the first episode of our podcast. I'm joined by my co-host Zachary.
Hello, everybody.
And this is a men's podcast, but not just any men's podcast. This is a godly men's podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, so all your, I don't know any other men's podcasts. Throw those out the window for a second and come here because we're going to show you what it means to be a man of God. And one more thing, no girls allowed. It's like that Snoopy thing, no girls allowed.
Get out of here. You don't belong. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a girl and you want to listen to this just to kind of see what you should look for in a godly man, well, you're at the right place too. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. There's going to be a name for the podcast. We don't know yet. We're going to figure that out because it's kind of... I had a name. It was going to be like the Men of God podcast, but that's already taken, of course. I don't know why I thought it wouldn't be, but here we are. So we're gonna be experimenting with different names, but we'll come up with one. But anyways, like I said, I'm Anthony, and this is Zach, and this is a podcast for godly men. And so first off, I guess you kind of want to know who we are. So, Zach, who's Zach? What's your name, Zach? Zach Cogley. Oh, I forgot. I told you I'm not going to call you Cogliostro anymore.
Garcilapo.
Garcilapo.
No, I'm Zach Garcilaso.
Okay.
Born and raised from Washington, Missouri. I joined the military after high school. Served 6 years as a cop. Then I lived in Italy for 2 years, and then Montana. Then went back home to Missouri. Moved down to Oklahoma to go to Bible school, and then while I was at Bible school, I joined a Planet Fitness, and that's where we met. Been a believer for most of my life. I remember when I was a kid, like in kindergarten, my mom would get phone calls from other parents because I told other children in my class that if they didn't accept Jesus, they were going to hell.
Well, they weren't lying.
And I wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
I wasn't wrong. There's probably not a whole lot of wisdom or love with it.
I love that. We've been troubleshooting, and so this is like my first. Like we've done our intros a couple times. I think, but this was the best opening because I didn't hear that last part. That was pretty awesome. I love that. That's sweet, man. So
I got surprises.
So Zach, man, did you say that you went to Bible college?
I did.
Yeah.
Down here in Oklahoma, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma.
Yep. And yeah, Zach, he's the man when it comes to that stuff, man. Like he's a great go-to guy. So I'm glad to have him on the podcast.
Thank you. You are too.
Oh, stop. But yeah, I'm Anthony. I'm a dude. Disguised as a dude playing another dude. No, what do I do again? Oh yeah, I am an MMA practitioner. I'm getting ready to compete here soon in a jiu-jitsu tournament. I skateboard. I'm a filmmaker. I help lead a men's group called Band of Brothers, which that has changed my life completely. I grew up a believer, fell out of it when my dad passed away. I just kind of was just like, well, you know what? I'm just going to start living for myself. And that was not a good idea. I moved to California, and California has like its ups and downs, really. It's really just a cool place to be, but everything else kind of sucks about it. But during COVID...
Is it super hot there?
Well...
all the time?
No, not well, I lived in the desert, so it was pretty hot, but like... so here in Oklahoma, the heat is like humid, but out there it's like dry. And honestly, I would prefer the dry heat over the humidity.
Man, I bet. I
But
bet.
but I always say this: the best part about California is just like literally, I lived in the desert, but I can like travel like 45 minutes down the highway, go up a mountain, and it'll be snowing. I can go back down, go to like a beach, and like or go through like a forest. You can go anywhere. But man, dude, the
Yeah.
prices suck, the politics suck, and like it's I don't know. It's kooky. I would like to visit again one day, but anyways. But yeah, no, I during COVID, I moved back here, and when I moved back here, I was, I was already in like a terrible state, like mentally. Um, I did a lot of things that were not good for my soul, um, and later on down the line, I kind of just moved to. I started working at Planet Fitness, and that's where me and Zach met. And through time, I actually just kind of like, I don't know, I just kind of, well, it was a couple of different factors that led up to this, but I eventually accepted the Lord into my life and started off slow. He had to reveal some things. He had to reveal some things to me that were just kind of hindering me, kind of holding me back from like fully just submitting to the Lord. And they weren't pretty. It wasn't fun. It was a lot of a lot of demons I had to freaking just get rid of. And but here I am now, alive and well, and happier than I've
Yeah, you
ever
are.
been. I'm grateful to be where I'm at. I'm not trying to sound conceited or anything. Sorry if I do,
No, hey,
but
you've come a long way. I still remember the day when you told me we were at the trash can right next to the abs and stretching room. You told me, I was like, no way. God, you got him.
you got him. Yeah, yeah. It was a mixture between politics and like the state of the world and Dragon Ball. That's what really
That's
got me
right.
back into it.
Yes.
Because the politics. I'm not gonna go too much into the politics, but it was just like how the world was at that time. I was like, oh man, and how it kind of still is, but it's like, whoa, dude, I can't participate in this stuff. Like this stuff is like degenerate and just like not of God. It's like we. It's just like this. Is like my country was just devoid of God, and Dragon Ball because I love Goku. I always have. I got a tattoo of one of his gi symbols, and like one day I was just like, man, dude, Goku is like he's a hero. He is the man. I'm like, I want to be like
Yeah.
that. But then I was like, well, I wonder if there's someone. I wonder if there's someone real that's like Goku that I can kind of just like look up to or aspire to be. And I'm like, oh wait, Jesus, because him and Jesus just share. Oh my gosh, why is that hard to say? Him and Jesus just share it's a lot in common. It's so weird, man. Like, and I think we'll get into that another day because, dude, like we said earlier, like when we were troubleshooting, there are so many similarities between Dragon Ball and freaking Christianity and God, just like it's crazy. But
Yeah.
and ultimately that's how me and Zach kind of bonded too, because we both love Dragon Ball.
Initially, you would always walk into work with your little Dragon Ball Z lanyard, and I was like, no way.
No way, way. It's like, did we just
Oh, because I
become
love
best friends?
DBZ. Literally.
Yeah,
Literally. It's like anyone you come across that has a passion for DBZ, you instantly, there's like a connection that's formed. It's weird.
exactly, man, dude. But yeah, then yeah, from there, yeah, there we just became better friends through the years. At first, it was kind of hard to talk to Zach because I wasn't a Christian when I first started at Planet Fitness. I was just kind of like a loser for a little for a while, but
You weren't a loser. You weren't a loser.
well, I mean, I was doing things a loser would do. Yeah, I'll say.
Oh, I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah.
I got you. Okay.
But no, because I think looking back on it, because I didn't even and like we were talking about this a little bit in our troubleshooting, but I think looking back at it, I think I felt like some sort of conviction. I think that's what it was. Cause I was like, because I'm looking at Zach. He's like this man of God, and I'm over here just like living for myself and all that. And I'm just like, I think I'm like I don't know. It just like almost like it's not like I didn't feel like worthy to be around you, but it just felt like, man, it's like I'm missing something. But I feel like he's got it, but I don't know what I'm missing. So yeah. But then after that, yeah, it just like yeah, everything started changing. Um, but yeah, yeah. So, but here we are. Don't know the name of the podcast yet. Title redacted. Yeah, but like we said, this is a podcast for godly men and teaching you how to be one. And so this is gonna be kind of set up just like how like my band of brothers is. So there are waves, and each wave has 10 weeks. And so what we're gonna do are 10-week waves, or 10-week waves, and each week is gonna be something different. And like this week's more just an introduction, just to what our mission is and what we're gonna try and help you with. So I just kind of want to start off by asking you, Zach. So what is a biblical man to you? What is a man of God?
And
Yeah.
let's see. I would say a biblical man to me would be, what Jesus portrayed. Someone who pursued holiness, that walked in the ways of God. He was not manipulated by the world, but he had his eyes like just completely fixed on the ways of God. He had a mission, and nothing was going to deter him. Children felt comfortable around him. Men and women felt comfortable to go to him. He also wasn't afraid to share the truth to like the Pharisees.
Yeah.
He wasn't here to be, like a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just kind of, a man full of compassion and patience and love, but also knew when to be stern. That's just kind of what I see a biblical man being.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Like. Yeah. No. You took. Yeah. That was perfect. Honestly. When I looked it up on Google, because that's kind of that was kind of like what I was thinking of earlier too. But it's like pursuing righteousness, being familiar with God's word, being kind to others, knowing how and when to exert one's strength, which that's very interesting, and being willing to sacrifice the same way the Lord Jesus did. And that's something, we could do a whole episode. That might actually be one of the episodes in the future, sacrifice. Actually, I think I did write that down. Oh yeah, I think I did. Yeah. So, and everything I just said was just like what you said. It's what Jesus was. I mean, he made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was, and like you said, he would spread the word of God to everyone, even the Pharisees. And so that's pretty much what a man of God is. That's what we need to be. We need to be leaders. We need to be unafraid. But here's the thing: we will have fears. There are fears, but it's good to know that we can admit them, to God. One of these verses that I've been kind of going back to a lot. It was let me see. It's Psalms 139, 24, I think 24 and 25. Let me see real quick. It's
okay. I love Psalms 139.
Oh yeah, man, dude.
So good.
Yeah, usually when our like main leader, when he prays, that band of brothers, he always adds this. He always says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offense in my way, and lead me to the way of everlasting." So, it's always good to kind of just see, because a lot of times, man, because I think week 7 at Band of Brothers, we were talking about wounds. And so, not like physical wounds, but, spiritual and mental. So, a lot of the sins that we commit, they're a byproduct of that wound. And it's never surface level,
Yeah.
So, you gotta dig deep into it. Like, why am I addicted to porn? Why am I Why am I abusing these drugs? Why am I like doing that? What am I trying to numb? What am I trying to cover up? So,
Yeah.
so through this podcast, we'll talk about that stuff because
No,
we have a
100%.
lot of wounds that we need to deal with because you can't fix a broken arm with a band-aid. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But we just want to also let you guys know we aren't like those little alpha male channels, because a lot of them they just lead you to worship, money and materialism and sex, and we're not gonna. I don't know if you've seen this, Zack, but we're not gonna scream at you and put you through like a boot camp. You got to pay $15,000 for like 3 days. It's like I don't know if you've seen that. It's like this alpha male boot
Yeah, I
camp.
have.
You have, yeah. it's,
Yes.
it's just like
So
they just degrade you for like a week or something, and you pay
put
fifteen
you
thousand
down
dollars.
constantly.
Yeah. And it's like you don't get anything out of it. You just get your feelings hurt because they're just like making fun of you and
Yeah.
just like putting you through all this stuff. We're
Just,
not we're not
yeah.
gonna do that. No, we're
No, that's not our intention at all.
no, we're here to uplift men, but we will
Mm.
also be truthful. And sometimes the truth can hurt, but the truth can set you free also. So that's just kind of our thing. We also like to. I think each week we're gonna try and bring a verse of the week. So I chose this verse of the week to be. Let's see. It was First Timothy. Oops. 1 Timothy 6, 11. So I'm gonna read it. And so when we give you these verses, um, just just read them, but also meditate on them. So like I don't know if some of y'all don't know how to meditate on the word. You're not just like going and like you're not going and like being like, oh no 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 no. You're not like crossing your legs and like putting your little fingers. No,
Levitating off the
yeah,
ground. None of that.
levitating on the ground. Yeah, no. What you're doing is like you're reading that verse and you're just kind of breaking it down, just bit by bit, and just kind of going over it in your mind, just over and over. And honestly, you can don't even be afraid to ask God, like, hey, can you just open my heart to this verse? Can you just show me what you're trying to like tell me through this verse? I have to do that when I just read the Bible in general. I have to ask him to have the pages come alive, and just
Yeah.
give me a message that I'm supposed to hear. Do not be afraid of that. Do not be afraid to go to God for
No.
anything, man. But this week's verse, like I said, is 1 Timothy 6:11. But you, man, and I'm reading out of the NIV. But you, man of God, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness. Think about that. But
Mm.
so yeah, that's your verse for the week. Um, but yeah, so we're just gonna yeah, dude, this is just a dudes podcast, man. For dudes, for men.
Dudes podcast. The
Yeah.
dudes.
Probably talk about Dragon Ball a bit more than what we should, honestly. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, okay. You know what? We got time. Listen, okay. So Jesus, one thing that really sticks out to okay, and we're talking about Goku comparisons to Jesus. So the thing about Goku, which I think Goku was like one of the manliest men in anime ever, but
Yeah. Yeah.
but the thing I always admired about him was that he gave mercy to his enemies, and like he's like, hey, like for instance, Vegeta, he could have like
Yeah.
he's like he told Krillin, hey, don't kill him.
Man, imagine.
Yeah,
Imagine if he did just take Vegeta out right there.
yeah, just
Oh my
imagine
gosh.
that. Yeah, they wouldn't have had all this help they had through the years, man. And Vegeta's a freaking amazing story because his whole arc is about redemption. It's such a well written character.
Yeah, they're like the mercy he showed Vegeta.
Yeah.
Like Vegeta had this whole calling, or this whole calling,
Yeah.
but he had a whole part of the bigger picture.
Hmm. Yeah, and also it's like a Piccolo, another one, dude.
Yeah,
Piccolo, it's just this mercy just kind of leads to redemption. It's like a second chance thing. Okay, you can. That's
Yeah.
what God gives us. He gives us we have done crappy things in our lives. I know I have. I know I definitely
Yeah.
have.
Man, that even makes me think of like even with Frieza, like he
Oh
showed
yeah,
Frieza
Frieza.
mercy.
Yeah.
He even showed the person that didn't even deserve it mercy, even though Frieza multiple times just kept didn't really better himself ever.
Yeah.
But Goku still showed mercy. I mean, that's how Jesus is too.
Well, I will say though, I don't like Super. I don't like Dragon Ball Super. But in the Tournament of Power, Frieza was
Yeah,
the main one to help them win. You know, because
they
Goku was like,
they
"Hey,
took out the big boy.
yeah," like Goku was like, "Hey, I'll give you a chance, man." Even though I gave you like 3 chances already, but like here, I'll give you another one. You know,
Yeah,
and like that just kind of makes me think. That makes me think of Grace. And so
100%.
you want to know something interesting? So we have time. But why do we have time, Zach? Why do we have time? Why did God give us time? Because He lives in
Why did
eternity.
God give us time?
Because he lives in eternity. He doesn't have he doesn't have a concept of time like we do.
Yeah.
And so,
Huh?
what do you think? I'm gonna ask you first.
That's a good question. Well, I think that's one. He's God, so he obviously there's a purpose for it. But I think uh, time's important
Hmm.
because if we just had, let's say, if we didn't have time, it would be easy to get laxed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like just go with the flow. Like there's nothing to worry about. We have unlimited time. But since there is time, like our time here's short. Like we got what, like max 100 years.
Yeah.
100 years. Like that's not a whole lot of time, and so it helps you, to be motivated and to have purpose. I guess purpose in a sense.
Yeah. So and I heard someone talk about this. So time isn't and when we were talking about all these great gifts God given us. Time is another great one. So the reason that Satan can't be forgiven is because he sinned in eternity. That's forever. But when we
Okay.
sin down here, we have time. So we have time to go and repent and just go from there. And when we fall back, we just go to forgiveness because we have time to do that. Time is limited,
Yeah.
of course, but we have time. And whoever's listening to this, I just want you to know you have time too. If you haven't made
You
that
do.
decision to give your life to the Lord, or maybe you have and maybe you've fallen back, there's time. You're still breathing. You can, I mean, if you're listening to the podcast, I hope you're still breathing. But you have time to turn back to God and be like, hey, I did this. I've been doing this bad thing, or maybe I've stepped away from you for a while. Um, I'm sorry, and He'll forgive you. He will, and
Yeah.
he'll just act like, okay, well, water under the bridge, dude. Let's get back to work. Um,
Yeah. It reminds me of like the whole prodigal son story,
yeah,
right?
oh
Like
yeah,
how the son asks his father for an inheritance, so the father gives it to him,
hmm
and the kid takes his inheritance and goes spends it on, let's say, like prostitutes, and he does a bunch of nonsense with it. He
hmm
blows it, and then the son he's in a pig pen eating filth with the pigs, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go and at least try to get a job with my father again. I can't live like this, and so he makes up this thing in his head, like what he's gonna do to get right with his father, and so
hmm
he heads back to his father, and then his father, when he sees his son, he forgets what happened,
yeah,
and he just runs, hugs him, shows him unconditional love, puts a ring on his finger and a robe, says welcome back, and then they throw a party because he returned.
yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah, that's like that's the perfect freaking that's the perfect piece of scripture, man. Yeah, because man, um, dude, I mean, I'm telling you, man. Um, Sometimes my grandpa says this. He tells me this little. It's not necessarily a story, but like he just says that. Okay, so just imagine you're walking next to God on a beach. There's two sets of footprints, yours and God's. You're walking with him, and then you look around. You get a little scared because he's not there anymore. And you just see that one set of footprints, and you look up and you realize he's carrying you the whole time. So
Yes.
even when you fall back, God, we feel like He's far away, and so with this podcast, I feel like we need to be a little authentic with our experiences. So I'm going to kind of go into mine. Zach, you don't have to go into yours right
No,
away,
I'll share it too.
but so my thing was like, man, I just felt worthless like most of my life. My thing was like, man, I'm just this waste of space, man. Like I have no purpose here. I should just off myself. I don't think we could say the S word, but I should just off myself. And I've had many times where I've tried, and something's always happened to kind of prevent that. Um, and so it was just like this cycle I was going through, especially when I was in California, man. That was the worst time of my life. I was just like going through so much. I had family kind of betray me, kind of moving house to house. Then when I did find one, it was good for a while, but I still just wasn't happy. It's like I was missing
Yeah.
something. And then I had these crazy freaking roommates, which I'll get into that a whole freaking other time. And that drove me literally insane. Moved back here, um, and uh, you know, I had these fits, man. It was crazy. I don't think I ever told you this, but for weeks and like a month or a couple months, um, it was like this almost daily thing where I was like yelling at myself. And I would like keep hitting myself until I knock myself out. And then like my ex at the time, she would have to like come, freaking drag me on the bed and just calm me down, console me, and yeah, it was literally, I think it was literally a freaking demon. Like it was like I just like harbored this like unclean spirit or whatever in me, and it was just like it was really eating at me. So when I got saved,
Mm-hmm.
it was cool, but there was still some unfinished business. I still had this feeling. I would try to numb it with different things, different substances, and then there was just one time. Um, I think it was at the beginning of this year, actually. I had this terrible. Um, I just had this terrible, just mental, just mental. My mental state was just dropped dramatically, and it was crazy because I had this dream beforehand, before it happened, of like I was outside and there's like this gigantic, and it happened. It was a dream that happened a couple times. It was like this gigantic freaking wolf. It was huge. It had blood in its mouth, and it was like running towards me. And then I was like, and then in my head I'm like, oh God help me! And then it just like ran just right past me. That happened
Mm-hmm.
twice, and so like it happened. So yeah, so I was going through all that stuff. Man, I was out of work for 2 weeks. I was depressed. I was in my bed, but man, God showed me His love. Man, I remember fighting with Him. I was like, God, I'm gonna off myself, and you can't do anything about it. And he's like,
Yeah. Mm.
okay, well, I love you.
Let's
I'm like,
see what
stop it.
happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And and it took some weeks, but God showed me His love. Not just you know through him, but also like there were other people who cared about me, who really loved me, like Zack, some of my aunts, my mom, my grandparents, some of my friends, like my best friend Ethan, uh, just all these people, and it was something I never really understood before that time. I didn't think people actually cared about my existence or anything like that, and
Yeah.
finally, I had to make a decision. I was like, well, this isn't fun, and I didn't realize all the toll I would put people through this. It's kind of a selfish act, and that's when I started Band of Brothers. They've been trying to. There were like there's some guys like Jake and Greg. They've been trying to get me to go for years, or not years, months. I finally went, and that started to change everything. It showed me because Band of Brothers is just like a men's group, or a Christian men's group, but it's way more than that. Um, and it showed me like, man, this is the life I want to live. I want to live for others. Because that's our motto. It's like so others may live. We sacrifice a lot. We give a lot, and that's just the best feeling. And so now, here I am. This is my second wave. I'm a leader there now, and it's been man, it's been great because God, He just totally delivered me from that.
Man, won't he do it?
Yeah, and I
Won't
don't
he
even
do it?
I don't even feel like that anymore. And if that thought ever comes in or anything like that comes in, I'm like God, don't want it, because that's the best thing about God. Is like He tells us that give me your heavy burden, and I'll give you my yoke, which is light. Because we're not supposed to be dealing with a lot
Yeah.
of these things, you know. We're supposed to be giving it to God.
Yeah, he knows how we are. Like every time we start to carry these burdens, like you start to panic or you just like your mind just starts racing. Like like an example is Peter walking on water. As long as he was fixed on Jesus, he was good. But then, the cares of this world, quote unquote, the waves,
Yeah.
they start getting your eyes, and you start freaking out. Like, oh my gosh!
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah.
it's everyone has that experience.
Yeah. I always have to go to Matthew 6:33 for that. Seek first His kingdom, and all these things will be given to you. Because that just says, like, just seek God first, and He'll make sure you're all right. He'll provide for
Yeah.
you. And that's been very apparent to me lately.
Every time.
Yeah.
Man, what you just listening to your testimony, it reminds me of something my uncle sent me, and he sent me it was in regards to like difficult times, and so like it kind of went like this, like I this is God talking to like whoever, and it's like I would have delivered David from the hand of Saul, but I had to prepare him for the kingdom that he was about to rule. I would have delivered Joseph from the prison, but he had some things to learn so that he could be second in command under Pharaoh. Same with like Jesus. I would have removed Jesus from all that suffering, but he had to go and die on the cross for all these people. So it's like in all those moments of just like agony and suffering and just you're like, God, how the heck could you use this? Like him and his greatness, he just takes it and he prepares you. And there's people that he's going to reach through that. It's just wild to me.
I can add another one.
Yeah, let's go.
If Frieza didn't kill Goku, Frieza didn't kill Krillin,
Yeah.
Goku would have never been
Yeah.
Super Saiyan. Just
No,
saying.
for real, dude. It's that's so true.
Yeah, man.
Or like
Gosh.
if Boo never showed up, we would have never had that epic scene with Vegeta dying for his son. You know what I'm saying?
That is true. That was his redemption. That was like the finale to his redemption. You're right. Because if Boo didn't show up, and he didn't make the only sacrifice he ever made, then Vegeta just still would have been a crappy dude. So
Exactly.
that's awesome. Oh wow, that was a really good one. But yeah, that's kind of my testimony. Zach, if you want to share yours, you can. You can share as little or as much as you want, but
Sure.
I'm just kind of like to be transparent personally.
No, yeah, I love sharing it because, man, it's all glory goes to God. But shoot, for me, like my testimony, like I grew up in the church. I had a relationship with God for most of my life. I remember praying to Him. Man, I remember one of the first times in children's church. I think I was probably 7, and we had a PS2 raffle, and I was like every night for 3 months. I was like, God, I want to win that PS2, and the night came for the raffle, and the dude called off a number, and this girl started jumping, and she was so excited she ran up front, and then he realized he made a mistake, and he read off the right number, and it happened to be mine. And dude, I ran up there. I was like, dude, I got the PS2. All these kids, they tried to trade me their glow sticks for this PS2. I was like, no, get away from me. I'm like, they're like, here, we'll give you 15 glow sticks for this PS2.
Back away, Ethan. I have a PS2.
Yeah, get out of here. But so that like it of course I don't know. That was just I just remember praying to God for it, and He gave it to me. He answered that prayer. So I continued on. I was a little kid, but things changed whenever I got into middle school and high school when I got a girlfriend, and that's when I kind of took a dip for the worse because my eyes started to get on this girl, I no longer really. I would still go to church, but man, I was consumed by this girl. I like put away. I stopped hanging out with all my friends, and it just got bad. But shoot, we were together for 3 years, and then after 3 years, she kind of broke up with me out of the blue, and it just devastated me.
Oh wow!
And at the same time, my mom told me that my dad was cheating on her, and since I was the oldest, she didn't have anyone to really talk to, so she confided in me, and I was like, shoot, 14, 15 at the time. I couldn't, my girlfriend just broke up with me, and now I'm hearing this, and it's like, I just had to emotionally be stable. I had to dig myself in this pit and just be like, man, I don't care about anything, because if I start to care, I'm just going to get hurt. And then, in order to fill this void, I turned to video games, and I was just playing video games all the time. I didn't care about school. Man, whenever I found out I was joining the military, that was game over. Like, I didn't care. I never showed up to class. My my physics teacher, I remember he talked to my mom, and he was like, what is Zach's plans after school? And she was like, oh, he's joining the military. And he was like, oh, thank God, because he was so worried about me because I didn't show up. I didn't do anything. He was like, man, this guy's going to do nothing with his life. But so I joined the military. So I'm like just digging myself in this pit. I just don't care about anything anymore because my heart's just wrecked. And in the military, there aren't a whole lot of people serving God. I wasn't one of them, that's for sure. And I ended up getting exposed to like pornography, and it got me. Oh, yeah. And I just felt like a filthy piece of trash. So now I'm like stuck with pornography, looking at it constantly.
That is
I'm in the military. Not a whole lot of not a lot of good influences around me. And what's wild to me is like even at my time in the military, I had roommates, and like my roommates who they weren't believers, but they were like, hey man, let's go to church. And I was like, no, I don't want to go to church. And I was kind of done with God. But just looking back on it now, it's like I could see God trying to get like whatever he could, trying to get a hold of me. Yeah. And kind of like you said, man, I remember taking a shower and I was just done for at the time. Like my heart, I just felt worthless. But growing up, I always heard that if you like offed yourself, you would go to hell. Mm-hmm. And so I remember talking to God, and I was like, God, I feel like I'm living in hell right now, but if I were to off myself, then I'm going to hell. I felt trapped, and I became miserable. Yeah. So I left the military, not doing really any better, and I moved in with my parents, and I was like, God, I can't keep living like this. There's got to be more for my life. And it's so funny that you brought up Psalms 139. The psalm that you read earlier was the psalm that I prayed to God on my parents' porch. Oh, really? It changed my life. I said, God, if there's anything in me, any offensive way in me, test me, show me my heart. And I remember like the day after I read Romans 8:1 and 2, where it says, there's no condemnation for us in Christ Jesus, for the Spirit of life set us free from the law of sin and death. And man, something I'd struggled with for 8 years was gone in a moment. Dude. And it's kind of like the blind man that Jesus healed. The Pharisees questioning him, they're like, "Oh, who did this to you? How did this happen?" And the guy just like he's like, "Look, this is all I know. I was once blind and now I can see. Okay, that's all I know." Dude. And it's like the same way. Like, this is all I know. I gave my life to God. I told him, I said, God help me, and he set me free. And so after that happened, it was just a snowball effect. Like, he just starts revealing himself to you, and you just start to just fall in love with Jesus. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's kind of my testimony in a little bit. But yeah, he showed up.
I love that, man. That's freaking amazing, man. Something you struggled with 8 years, just freaking lifted off of you. It was gone. He took that burden. That's crazy.
In a moment. Yeah.
It took me a little longer, but it's off though. Hey. But that's freaking amazing, man. Yeah, you have a great story. And look, it's so crazy, man, that you say that, because I would have just the man that you are now is totally completely different, man. I mean, but the Bible does say we are new creatures in Christ, so
Man, for real.
But man,
Like that's something I think I want to say. Like if you feel worthless, you know, the great thing is that our worth doesn't come from us and what we do or what we accomplish. It comes from Jesus.
yeah, definitely. And so I
Yeah.
hope you guys kind of took note because, like, in both our testimonies, we were sinning, we were doing all these different sins, but there were, like I said earlier, these wounds, these sins are, they're not surface level. They're caused by deep wounds. You know, wounds of just feeling inadequate, not good enough, wounds of just not trusting the world, wounds of just like, just all these different types. There are so many different types, but man, just like me and Zach's testimonies, man, God can deliver you from that. All you got to do is just put your faith in it, and you just have to seek Him. Um, I really like your testimony, Zach. I never even like,
Hey,
yeah.
I love yours too.
Oh, stop it.
Oh no.
But
No, that is what Jesus says multiple times. He says, "Whom the Son sets free is free indeed," and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That's his goal for our lives.
yeah, 100%. So, this episode was an introduction, but it kind of delved into like kind of wounds and sins, which I love. I think that's a good way to start it off. So, my challenge to you guys, I want you guys to really just and like that verse. We do. You know what? Should I change the verse of the? No, I can't change the verse of the week.
No, I think it's a good verse.
Okay, but if
I did want to say something about the verse, if I can.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed is that it says, flee from these things in 1 Timothy 6:11. Flee from these things, and I just want to point out that the things that he's talking about is in 1 Timothy 6. 5 verse 4. So if you're questioning like, well, what kind of things are these am I supposed to flee? He says envy, quarreling, slander, and then evil suspicions and constant disagreement. I'm reading in the CSB. So if you read that and you're like, well, what am I supposed to flee from? That's kind of it.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad you added that on. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's actually a very good. I'm really glad you looked that up. Yeah. So take a look at Timothy 5, and then when you get to 6, it all makes sense. It'll tell you what you should flee from. But remember, and I challenge you guys, just read Psalms 139, 24, and 25. Ask the Lord to search your heart. See what's causing you issues, what's stopping you from getting closer to Him. I would ask you guys to just kind of challenge yourselves and let that happen. It's not gonna be pretty, but because darkness doesn't want to come to light. So when you shine a light on it, well, it's gonna be shown, and so from there, God will just kind of show you what you need to do. But yeah. But yeah, so wounds, man. Yeah, this is a pretty good start to the podcast. Again, we don't even freaking know the name of it. We got to figure that out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out.
But yeah, so this week's memory verse is 1 Timothy 6:11. But like Zach said, you should read 5 first before you go into that. But yeah. Honestly, man, I think we did pretty good. Oh, wait, did we, man, we recorded this so many times, I kind of can't remember. Just to reiterate, in case we didn't earlier. So, we aren't like those alpha male channels, all right? Or podcasts or whatever. A lot of the times, like, with the Andrew Tates in the world and all these guys, they're like, you're worthless if you don't have X amount of money, X amount of cars, X amount of women. They're pretty much like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? The Bible doesn't really say, that's not biblical. That's worldly. We don't live by the world. We live by the flesh. We're set apart as men of God. So what we do is we follow the man, not Goku, but Jesus. We follow what he did,
Yeah.
yeah, who he was, and how we can be more like him each and every day. Because we don't, because the only God we worship is the God above. We don't worship money. We don't worship materialism. We don't worship sex. So if you find yourself doing any of that, stop. It's not good. It's not. I mean, it's fine to like. Don't get me wrong. Money's cool, but we shouldn't like put it on this pedestal of like, oh man, like if I don't have this amount of money, then I don't know if because I used to feel like that, for a while when I was going through like my little like my little I don't think I'm not gonna say alpha male phase. I was just like I just wanted money, and
Yeah.
so we'll put money on this big pedestal like it's like almost like worshiping it, but it's just paper. It's paper, and God's like literally like, dude, if you want money, I can just like help you out, dude. Like just seek me, and I'll help you out along the way. You don't have to worry about anything, man. That's pretty much what God's like. It's great to know, and it's not bull crap either. Because at first it took me a little while. Cause I'm like, well, will He really supply my needs? I feel like I have to, feel like I have to worry about stuff. No, He will. He has been doing that to me a lot. But yeah, we're not like those. We're not like those alpha males. We're gonna show you how to be a real man of God. And ladies, if you're the guy you're interested in is listening to this podcast, you found a winner.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep him. Don't let him get away.
But yeah, man. But yeah, well, I mean, I really don't have anything else to say for this episode. Got anything, Zach? Are you all good?
Yeah. Whoever whoever's listening, you matter. You have a purpose.
Yes.
The fact that you're still breathing means that God has something for you.
Definitely. 100%. But yeah. Well, guys, I think this is a good stopping point for this episode. I had fun. This is Zach's first podcast. I've done these a million times. They've all failed funny because I've always done them for myself. But yeah, this might be a little different. Who knows? But
Hey, we'll see.
yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Make sure to check out next week's episode. I forgot what we're talking about next week. It'll be a surprise. You'll know when you see it.
Be there or else.
Be there, be square. But yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we hope you have a wonderful day.